This section deals with the foundation of the blues rock guitar style, rhythm guitar playing. These examples are pulled from the music of many well-known groups and players, and in many cases are identifiable as the main thrust behind important songs. These examples illustrate the common threads that weave through the blues rock style. The boogie pattern may be the single most identifiable feature of the blues, dating back to the Delta blues style of guitarist-singer Robert Johnson. The pattern is common in all styles of music and is especially connected to the guitar as its main advocate. Chuck Berry exploited the boogie pattern a great deal in the early stages of rock and roll, and his aggressive approach to guitar playing had a profound effect on everything that followed. He took the boogie pattern, a blues staple, changed it from a shuffle to a straight eighth note feel, put a fire under it, and once Chuck got it cooking, there was no turning back. The boogie pattern is at the foundation of blues rock rhythm guitar playing, and we're going to be dealing with it a lot through the whole video. In this first part, you're going to see how to change back and forth between a shuffle feel and a straight feel in example 1, and the double stops of E5 and E6 and the other chords in the E blues progression are going to be found in different parts of the neck, like this. 3 different places. A5. And B5. So you're going to have 3 different E boogie patterns. And 2 different A's, or 3 rather. And 2 different B's. The 1, 4, and 5 of the E blues progression. Have a look at examples 1 and 2 now. As guitar players caught on to Chuck Berry's sound and attitude, the door opened wider and wider, so that by the early 60s, the power fifth shape began to carve its own path, breaking free from the typical 12-bar progression and forging newfound harmonic directions. New root movements using the shape, not being limited to the 1, 4, and 5 chords, were now being explored. Between domestic happenings and the onslaught of the British invasion, combined with maximum distortion and many new experimental effects, the power fifth shape was on its way to becoming the power chord, as we now know it. And rock and roll started to become rock, laying the foundation for heavy metal. Let's go into the breakdown room for a minute and take a closer look at some of what's to come in the next couple of examples in the styles of Led Zeppelin, Mountain, Joe Walsh, ZZ Top, and Jimi Hendrix. At this point, we're going to systematically add notes to the major and minor triads, building dominant 7th, dominant 9th, and minor 7th chords, justifying them with clear examples of their place in blues rock. A major triad consists of the root, 3rd, and 5th scale degrees of a major key, played simultaneously to form a chord. There are many ways to arrange or voice a triad on the guitar, based on accessibility, string choices, sound characteristics, but certain common voicings prevail in blues rock. dominant seventh chord is one of rock's strongest ties to the blues. The dominant seventh chord is a major triad that includes a flat seven. Oftentimes, the dominant seventh chord appears without a root or fifth, the crucial notes being the third and the flat seventh degree, and that causes a tritone interval. When the tritone is heard, the ear tends to fill in the missing notes. In the blues, the 1, 4, and 5 chords are usually dominant types, or implied to be dominant. So when heard in a rock context, one tends to hear the blues immediately. The examples that follow establish varied uses of the chord, ranging from full-blown voicings to the occurrence of the seventh degree without the major third. Let's go to the breakdown room and preview examples 11 through 17 with some dominant seventh chord highlights, a la the Beatles, Rolling Stones, and Joe Walsh. The dominant seventh with no third. It's a commonly used sound in blues rock. Its very name is as ambiguous as its musical character. I said before that the major third and the flat seven are the two crucial notes in determining a dominant chord. So how could it be dominant without the third then? Well, it isn't exactly. It could be heard as belonging to the dominant family, which is major in quality, or the minor seventh family, depending upon the context. In blues and blues rock styles, however, the chord usually implies a dominant sound, and that's why a major key signature is used. So despite the presence of the equivocal chord, by listening around it to the vocalist, the soloist, etc., you can determine for your own ears whether it's closer to dominant or minor. This is a sound that immediately evokes blues, R&B, and funk. It tends to bring another level to rock, and has been used by everyone from Zeppelin and Hendrix to Stevie Ray Vaughan and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The voicing that's found in the following examples is by far the most popular of its kind, and it's packed with musical history. More ambiguous than the dominant 7 no third is the dominant 7 sharp 9 chord, and similarly the general use of the flat third, also known as the sharp 9, in dominant chord situations. The dominant 7 sharp 9 is a tense and dead serious sounding chord. Although it's of the dominant persuasion and is technically derived from a major triad, it tends to sound meaner than your average minor chord. Guitar players affectionately call it the purple haze chord, owing to Hendrix's constant use of it, made especially famous as the signature chord in Purple Haze. Let's preview examples 21 through 26 with the dominant 7 sharp 9 chord in the breakdown room, with some stellar blues rock examples in the styles of Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, and more. pure minor chord, or the minor triad, 1 flat 3 5, is less common in this genre, but has certainly made its mark. It has a more rootsy folk blues sort of a sound to it. And we're going to preview what's coming up in the many minor triad examples in the styles of Santana and Robin Trower, Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, and Stevie Ray Vaughan. The minor 7 sound is a big deal in blues rock, as well as certain voicings for minor 7, like this one, coming up in example 32, brought to us by ZZ Top. Got a G minor 7 sound here, and that shape is prevalent in a lot of rhythm parts by ZZ Top.